The future of Baldur's Gate hangs in the balance. Will you be the hero and save it from looming darkness? Or will the city crumble under your influence?
It could never be said that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't give the player options. Right from the start of the game, Baldur's Gate 3 showers players with choices to make regarding the story, how they want to approach quests, and perhaps most importantly, their character builds. One option afforded to players when creating their character build is multiclassing, which allows a character to tap into skills from multiple classes at once. Baldur's Gate 3 makes it pretty simple to do since the option is available starting at level 2, but it can be a bit challenging to know which multiclass builds will be the best since there are so many options. If you need help figuring out which multiclass is for you, don't worry, I've got you covered. Here are the 10 best multiclass builds in Baldur's Gate 3. Remember that this list is totally subjective, so if I miss your favorite class combo, make sure to let me know in the comments down below so we can get as much information out there as possible. Number 10, the Ambusher. Rogue and Fighter class. The best multi-class options provide a lot of synergy between both classes, and the Ambusher does just that. If you spec into Fighter and Rogue, you can have a wide range of encounter options thanks to the Rogue class, but if something gets in your face, you'll be able to take a hit thanks to your fighter proficiency in medium armor. As soon as open combat starts, you'll also have access to shields, making it harder for enemies to hit you, and taking an action surge after a surprise attack aided by your rogue abilities lets you dish out even more damage in the same turn. Number 9, Metamagic Knight. Paladin and Sorcerer class. To create powerful spell options, this multi-class takes two classes that use the same ability for their spell casting and smashes them together. A Paladin has access to heavy armor and is a natural frontliner, while a Sorcerer, on the other hand, can be something of a glass cannon. Combining those two makes for a powerful magic-wielding knight. The multi-class makes you a long-range spell-casting tank that can also heal itself with lay on hands if something goes wrong. Because of how tanky you are, you can also lead the charge into any attack. Number 8, Choir Master, Paladin and Bard class. Paladins and Bards both use Charisma as their spellcasting modifier. This means a synergy between the two works wonders. By going with the College of Swords, the Paladin will be able to expend Bardic Inspiration dice to give themselves bonuses to their attacks thanks to Blade Flourish. Even with only one level in Bard, their range of spells will also vastly increase, making them far more useful in more situations, and they'll get a handful of Inspiration dice to help others on their ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. Number 7, Switchhitter, Paladin and Warlock class. A Paladin walks the path of their oath and has pledged themselves to uphold those values without question. However, this subclass doesn't put all its eggs in one basket and has made a deal with another powerful entity by speccing into the Warlock class as well. This gives the player access to all of the spells in the Warlock spell list and access to Eldritch Blast, a powerful long-range attack option. It also means you can be a Warlock with heavy armor proficiency, which makes you much more sturdy in combat. Additionally, since Warlock spells recharge on a short rest, you'll be able to smite more times per day than a straight Paladin, whose spells only recharge on a long rest. Number 6, Coffee Lock, Sorcerer and Warlock class. If you're looking to be a spellcasting god, speccing as a sorcerer and warlock is definitely the way to go. Both classes have a wide range of spells that they can cast, and if you choose to multi-class, you'll have access to both spell lists. The major downside of the multi-class, however, is that you only regain your sorcerer spell slots after a long rest, which means you'll be limited to what you can do based on how long it's been since you've fully rested. That said, the spells you have access to are excellent, and if you play it right, you should be able to handle any situation with them. Take note, however, that you need to be careful about how you spec when you level up so that you don't lose spell progression as the game progresses. Number 5, Chaos Lord, Paladin, Warlock, and Sorcerer class. All three classes bring some very powerful elements to the Chaos Lord multi-class. The Paladin will grant heavy armor, some extra healing, and proficiency with martial weapons and shields, making the class good for open direct combat on the front lines of battle. On top of that, the class also has access to Eldritch Evocations and Pact Boons from the Warlock, as well as the entire Warlock and Sorcerer spell lists. As far as versatile frontline builds are concerned, the Chaos Lord brings a lot to the table thanks to how many different problems it can solve with the long list of spells available at its fingertips. Number 4, Barbarian, the Druid and Barbarian class. When you're building your Druid for this multi-class, you'll be offered a circle when you hit level 2. If you take the Circle of the Moon, you'll be granted access to many combat-viable wild shape options. While in these mighty animal forms, you won't be able to cast spells, however, you will be able to use the Barbarian's non-spell-based abilities such as Fighter's Action Surge, or the even more devastatingly powerful Barbarian Rage. When you use Rage while transformed into an animal, you'll have advantage on all of your strength checks and strength saving throws. You'll also gain +2 to dealing damage and have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks. This makes your wild shapes much harder to take down and allows them to dish out plenty of extra damage, all from just one level dip into the Barbarian class. Number 3. Magic Tank, Fighter and Wizard class. Normally, wizards are limited to casting just one spell per turn. However, if you pour just 2 levels into the fighter class, you'll be able to take an additional action per short rest that allows you to cast a second spell in a single turn. Take note, however, that putting 2 levels into the fighter class will lock you out of getting your 6th level spell slot. If you don't want to lose that, you can still put just a single level into the fighter class to gain a ton of melee combat proficiencies such as martial weapons and heavy armor, along with a lot more HP. After this, just pour points into wizard to get all the way up to that 6th spell slot. Number 2. Sniper, Ranger, and Rogue class. This multi-class will allow you to get a ton of damage in during the very first turn of combat. You'll be combining the Ranger's Gloom Stalker subclass with the Rogue Assassin subclass, which will give you an extra attack with an additional 1d8 thanks to the Gloom Stalker subclass. On top of that, the Rogue class will grant you Sneak Attack, while its Assassin subclass will get you Assassinate. This means that you'll be getting off 3 attacks on an unsuspecting target, all of which will have advantage to hit thanks to Gloom Stalker's Dread Ambusher, and every hit will be critical. Number 1. Hitman, Rogue, Ranger, and Fighter class. This multi-class takes the build I just mentioned and throws 2 levels of Fighter into it to create one of the most powerful classes in the game. To create the build, put 3 levels into Rogue to get Assassin, add 5 levels to Ranger for the Gloom Stalker subclass for an extra attack, and then add 2 levels into the Fighter class. When you factor in Action Surge, this can grant you 7 attacks on turn 1, all with advantage and all hits being critical. While the Sniper multi-class mentioned previously can deal a lot of damage to unsuspecting foes, the Hitman multi-class will end almost every fight before it even begins. And that's our list of the top 10 best multi-class builds in Baldur's Gate 3. If we missed your favorite multi-class, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there, remember to like this video, subscribe to DualShockers, and click the bell icon to be notified whenever we post more Baldur's Gate 3 content.